in Michigan. The Trump campaign told us that Trump would call for the death penalty for child rapists. But instead, the former president said just this.
So when I return to the White House, we will stop the plunder, rape, slaughter, and destruction of our American suburbs, our cities and towns.
Joining us now is the chairman of the Republican National Committee. Back here on the Hill once again, Michael Whatley. Michael, thanks for joining us. Appreciate the time as always.
Yeah, it's good to be on with you.
You got it. So we were told today from the campaign that Trump would say, I'm announcing today that I will be asking for the death penalty for child rapists and child traffickers. He did not say it. And instead, he said part of that soundbite that we just played. Why? And doesn't that sort of highlight the concerns that many have that he just simply can't stay on message?
Well, I will certainly defer to the president in terms of the specifics for his speech. But what I will say is that he takes migrant crime very seriously. He takes child rapists very seriously. You know, he is a back the blue guy who supports law and order. And that is why all of the law enforcement agencies and support groups from around the country have endorsed him over Kamala Harris because he backs the blue.
Let me go into some numbers here, Michael. Donald Trump, as you know, in part in 2016 wrote into the White House on this populist message. I'm with you. I can connect with you. It was an argument he made a lot better when he was running against Hillary Clinton at the time, who was a known politician. But the latest numbers suggest now the country feels exactly that way as it relates to Kamala Harris. When it looks like, when the question is asked, who cares about you more, she is outpacing him more, and the country feels that she's the one who connects better. You can see the numbers right here, cares about people like you. How can Donald Trump win an election, Michael, when the country right now feels that she connects with the American public better than he does?
Yeah, right now, Kamala Harris is polling as a generic Democrat because the American people do not know her record. They have not had a chance to hear her talk. She still has not had an opportunity to defend or run away from her record. We still don't know which way it's going to go. But when they learn that she has always supported gun confiscation, that she has been the border czar who opened up that border, allowed 10 million illegal immigrants to come across it. The fact that she is the one who cast the tie-breaking votes on $2.5 trillion worth of unnecessary federal spending that have caused inflation to go through the roof and raised gasoline prices, grocery prices, and housing prices, that when the voters understand that, they're going to vote accordingly.
But she's been out there, Michael, for 30 days now. So isn't that incumbent upon either yourself, the RNC, Donald Trump? Because clearly that hasn't cut through.
Well, look, I would say that she's not been out there for 30 days. She has been very busy hiding and trying to run away from her record. Her handlers will not let her talk to the media. They will not let her have a sit down. And that's because she is fundamentally not a serious candidate. She's not ready for prime time.
But I guess what are you going to do about that? Because it's working for her.
Well, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are going to go out and they're going to talk directly to the American people like they are doing this week. The fact that President Trump yesterday was in Pennsylvania, today he's in Michigan, tomorrow he's in North Carolina, then he'll be in Arizona and Nevada. He is going to go out and directly communicate with every American family, with every American voter, and talk to them about the issues that they care about.
Scott Trainer, DDHQ, I don't know if you heard him in the previous break, but previous segment, but he essentially said Virginia, which Trump had been hopeful for when this was a Trump-Biden race, is now out of reach, that's what the numbers suggest right now with it being a Trump-Harris race. Do you concede that? Do you view it that way?
No, I don't. The latest polling that we've seen shows him to be within the margin of error. Glenn Youngkin showed us the way that a Republican can win in Virginia, and Glenn Youngkin is a champion for Donald Trump and is going to help us throughout the rest of that state. And the issues that Virginia voters are facing are the same as they are in every other battleground state around the country. They are very concerned about our southern border. They're very concerned about the economy and inflation and our standing in the world and whether or not America is going to be strong enough to defend our interests at home or abroad. Donald Trump outpolls Kamala Harris on every single one of those issues. So we're going to get our message out to the voters of Virginia, to the voters all across the country, and that's why we're going to be in a position to win.
Let me ask you about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. His running mate, Nicole Shanahan, said this. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
two options that we're looking at. And one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Waltz presidency, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump.
What negotiations, Michael, if any, are taking place between the RFK camp and Donald Trump's camp?
I will say I'm not privy to those discussions that the campaign may be having, but I certainly think we would welcome Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his supporters across the transom, and we certainly agree with him that the biggest threat to this country right now is a Kamala Harris-Tim Walz presidency.
Do you think this ends with a Robert F. Kennedy Jr. endorsement of Donald Trump?
Well, we certainly hope that it will. You know, I think that on a lot of issues out there right now, what Donald Trump is talking about is he's the only candidate who's even trying to unify the American people, and he's the only candidate who's talking about restoring our southern border, restoring the economy, and ensuring we are strong and able to protect our interests at home and abroad.
Michael Whatley, chairman of the RNC, always appreciate your time. Thanks for being back with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for watching, and make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.